So today I want to talk about the independent educational evaluation. And this is a tremendously useful tool when it comes to representing kids who have special needs. And I always encourage parents to use it, and I encourage other attorneys to use it, and we frequently use it at our firm as well. So let's talk kind of about the evaluation process and then what an independent educational evaluation or an IEE actually is. So every once in a while, your child is going to get evaluated, and the school performs its own set of evaluations. Now, let's say you don't like the evaluation. Let's say even that you're more or less okay with the evaluation, but there are aspects of it that you're not entirely in agreement with, or have some kind of quibble with. That's fine. At that point, go ahead and ask for an IEE, the Independent Educational Evaluation. Now, once you make the request of an IEE, and I always encourage you to do it in writing, at that point, they have two choices and only two choices. One choice is that they can give it to you and they have to pay for it. And that is almost always what they're going to do. The second choice is that they're going to file for due process. In other words, they're going to, for lack of a better term, sue you. This is not nearly as scary as it sounds. It's a due process complaint. It's not like a regular lawsuit, okay? It's really not that big a deal, okay, if they file a due process complaint. And they almost never do this because it is much more expensive for them to actually go out and hire a lawyer or consume the time of their own in-house counsel than it is to actually go ahead and just give you the IEE. So every single time that we've requested an IEE, and it's been countless times now as a firm, I can't remember how many times they've done it or we've done it, they've given us the IE because, again, there's no point in going through due process. So let's assume you get it. And I just want to go back for a second. Why do you want to do this in writing? Because you don't want any disagreements later on about, hey, I asked for an IEE and they say you didn't ask for an IEE. Just send somebody an email and request an IEE. And you can send this to anybody. You can send it to a school principal. You can send it to the special education director. You can send it to the teacher. Anything that basically puts them on notice. I would recommend actually that you go ahead and send it to everybody. Okay. And by the way, let's assume that they're going to grant you the IE, but even if they don't, you still have a right to an IE. You just don't have a right to one at public expense. So you can always go out and get your own evaluation. But if there is a free evaluation that is available to you through the school, go ahead and take advantage of that. That is something that can be immensely helpful. So, when you request independent educational evaluation, they're going to ask you why you disagree with the school's evaluation. That's great. You don't have to tell them. Okay? They can ask all they want. You never have to tell them why you disagree. And they cannot use that as a basis for not granting you the IEE. Now, you do, however, have to tell them which part of the evaluation you disagree with. Okay? And these are the general areas, right? We're talking about, is it the health part? Is it the academic part? Is it the executive functioning part? Is it the social emotional part? Okay? Is it a speech language part? Okay? You do have to identify which parts of the evaluation that the school has performed that you disagree with. And then at that point, once they grant you the IEE, you can get the independent evaluator to go ahead and evaluate across those areas that you've designated. Okay? I will always tell parents, do not go with the evaluators that the school recommends. Okay, so once they grant you the IE, they'll say, great, we're going to give you an IE, and we'd really like you to use one of these evaluators that we trust and we work with. That's great. Okay, if the school works with them and the school recommends them, don't go with them. Go out and find your own evaluator. Whatever city you live in, I'm sure that there are evaluators out there who can perform an IEE every bit as competently as one of the evaluators that the school recommends, but at the same time is not nearly as biased as one of the evaluators that the school works with. I mean, you think about it. If you're an evaluator who always works with the school, then at that point, you're going to be much more biased in the way that you approach your task as that evaluator than if you don't really work with the school. So go out, get your own evaluator. Even if there's not one in your city, go to the closest city and get your own independent evaluator. Okay? So why do it? Why get an IEE? Well, first, let me ask you this. Do you trust the school? Okay, maybe you do. Maybe you have a great working relationship with the school. Terrific, no problem. Okay, but still, kids are complicated, and special needs kids are especially complicated. Don't you want another set of eyes on the kids to kind of maybe give you some information that perhaps the school hasn't been able to hash out? Okay, maybe the school has seen a lot of aspects of a kid that you've recognized as well, or perhaps you haven't, and maybe their evaluation is very helpful. But you get another set of eyes on that kid, and that can be helpful too. Okay, again, special needs kids are complicated, and it doesn't hurt to get more than a few people to look at the needs of special education students. Also, if you do get into a situation where you have to argue with the school about what's going on with your son or daughter, then at that point, it's really nice to have some kind of objective information from an independent evaluator that you can take to the school and say, well, look, it's not just me who's disagreeing with you here. We went to an independent evaluator. You agreed to this evaluator. You paid for the evaluator. The evaluator doesn't work for you, doesn't work for me, and that evaluator has just provided information. Let's go ahead and take a look at it, because otherwise, what's going to happen is the school is going to say, well, we've done the evaluation and you don't have anything to tell us that we're wrong. But if you are armed with this IEE, then you can go back to the school and say, well, no, actually, I do have something from a well-trained professional who's taken a close look at my kid and disagrees with the evaluation that you completed. So I think the IEE is a tremendously useful tool. I think it should be requested a lot. And remember, you don't just have to request it. You're not entitled to more than one a year. But, let's say you want to do one in third grade. That doesn't mean you can't do one again. Let's say you do it in third grade, then you do it in seventh grade, then you do it in ninth grade. I've represented clients before who want to get an independent educational evaluation every single time that their kid is evaluated. And yes, those are more contentious cases, but we're perfectly happy to ask, because if that is something that helps us serve our client better, and that is something that helps us get better services for a special education student, then by all means, of course, we're going to use it. Use the IEE. It's a great tool.